Here we go.
Hey,
you ready?
Hey,
yes, yes.
Why don't pirates take showers
Right.
before they walk the plank?
I don't know.
They just wash up on shore.
Well, these bolts have got more grain in them than a railroad tie from all the rust. You probably know better than I do. I was out here like a little baby bird trying to fly out of a nest, just winging it.
Winging it.
So we get the old Carolina squat out of this square body.
Welcome back to Crossthread Garage and Salvage.
Quite possibly the best, worst automotive channel on YouTube that's really just about me teaching K8lynn how to work on her own truck. The C10 project behind us is a way to introduce her to engine work, trans work, brakes, suspension, some body and paint work, interior, in anticipation of her getting her 1941 Ford out of the weeds and into the garage here early summer, late spring maybe at this point. Follow along with what's going on this week while we give the old C10 here a little attitude adjustment with an altitude adjustment. That's right, we're lowering the back end 4 inches, the front end 3 inches. With a custom kit for the back end, we're going to be cutting the springs on the front end. We're going to be replacing all the steering and suspension components in the front that are loose, worn out, tired. We're talking tie rod ends, we're talking ball joints, anything and everything that's wobbling and shaking, gonna get replaced. So join us this week on Crossthread Garage and Salvage.
And leave us a comment.
The YouTube algorithm loves it, and we're just a couple hundred subscribers away from getting monetized on the channel, which would really help us grow this thing and fund future projects for K8lynn here in Crossthread Garage and Salvage. Thanks for watching.
Bum, 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 ba-dum, ba-dum.
Guys, this week what we're going to be doing is flipping the axle to the top side of this leaf spring pack here. So we're going to be lowering the back end by taking the axle from underneath the spring to on top of the spring, which means we're going to need to change our shocks, which are probably junk and need changed anyways. We're going to have to get rid of this bump stop and maybe notch that, put a C-notch in the frame. We're going to have to pull the leaf pack, the whole leaf pack out and drop that with the axle. What we're going to try and do, because the leaf pack that's in here, this is a C10, but at some point I think someone upgraded the leaves here, K8lynn, because there's way too many leaves in this leaf pack for a normal half-ton setup. Those are like 3/4 or 1-ton springs. So we're going to have to pull that leaf spring pack apart, and we're going to put back probably just 3 of those leaves. So that means we're going to pull the bolts out of the end, each end of the leaf spring, and we're going to leave the brakes and the drive shaft connected to the axle. We're going to drop the axle to the ground, pull the springs out, tear them apart. We're going to pick the spring back up with pick the axle back up with a jack, and then put the springs underneath it and put it back in, reinstall it. So that's the challenge this week. Once we get wheels and tires on, and we can set the rear end on the ground, we can measure how far it dropped, and we can try and level the front end off the rear end once we have wheels and tires. Right now, we've got 3 1/4 inches of leaf spring added to the height for the body. We're going to go down to 1 1/4 inches when we do the 3 packs. So we're going to remove 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 springs, 5 leaves from that spring pack. So we're going to lose 2 inches in height because this is currently lower than it would normally be. So we're going to lose 2 inches in height, which means we actually might be looking at a 6-inch rear drop here, K8lynn, which is pretty significant, but it's only because the leaf spring pack is so big. We should still be okay with clearance here on the 4-inch drop kit, putting the axle above this spring. So K8lynn, this thing down here is rustier than that coffee can we dug up in the backyard of this new house with all that money in it. So what we've been doing for the last 4 or 5 days is coming out here. You don't remember all that money we found?
What? No way.
What we've been doing is spraying every one of these bolts with PB blaster for the last 4 or 5 days. So the top of the U-bolts have been getting sprayed. The leaf spring mounting bolts have been getting sprayed. Top and bottom of the shock have been getting sprayed. Basically everything we got to pull up out of here, we've got to get broke free before we can do anything with it. While it's out, we're going to clean it up. This is an interesting thing. Somebody tell me if this ever came factory. I don't think there was a factory sway bar installed on the rear ends of these C10s. And so once more, we've got this weird, why would somebody do that to this truck unless they were turning it into a hot rod? And there's a sway bar on the rear end. And we're going to see if we can keep that installed with the axle drop or with the axle flip. I'm not sure, honestly, if that's going to be able to stay, which would be unfortunate. But the way it attaches to the top of the leaf spring pack here, I'm not sure. So we've got everything sprayed down. I'm hoping it's going to come loose. This is just part of living in the Midwest, I guess. We lived in Colorado for 12 years. I literally bought a 75-year-old truck and pulled it off of the original chassis. That truck over there, 75-year-old truck, pulled it off the original chassis, put it on that 3/4 ton chassis. You've seen that episode. If you haven't seen the Crossthread Garage origin story, go back and watch it. But there was literally paint still visible on that 75-year-old chassis from Colorado. This is what the chassis looks like in Ohio. And yes, before we're done, all of this is getting cleaned up. Oh, there's a little bit of shiny paint right there. And I always tell K8lynn, because I remember when I was working on the volunteer fire department, we had to try and figure out how to get a trailer off of a guy. One time he was working on it, had it up on jack stands, but had taken the jack out from underneath it, just had it on stands. And it's always safer if you just leave the jack underneath something. That way, if something falls, you've at least got a jack underneath it. Look at him. With the camera, sweetheart.
Oh.
Your camera. Jeez. These are too tall for a socket to fit over, so we're probably going to have to cut them with a cutoff wheel. 15/16. First try. Now it'll come off. Somebody help me understand what's happening here. Oh, too much rust. Sure. That makes sense. Too much rust, for sure. Alright, we gotta break all 4 of them loose. So this is the part of mechanicking that it just frustrates me. I look at a rusty bolt like this and I think, there's no way I'm gonna do that 8 times. I'm gonna have to do this 8 times. So I think the easier thing to do, I don't know why I didn't just think of this, instead of cutting the top off the bolt to get the nut off so we can get a socket over it, we're just going to cut the bolt. Duh. So we'll just cut the U-bolts below here and take them right off. Update. I'm out of cutoff wheels. I mean, I have the little nubby ones that are left over, but not enough to get through for U-bolts. So we are headed to town, grab some supplies, come back tonight, and see if we can't work inside again, because it's Ohio and it's unsurprisingly raining. K8lynn, what's your favorite thing about gray clouds?
They come in different shades of gray.
Well, we're here at the local hardware store that doubles as a men's grocery store, clothing outlet, and dog food and pet supply overstock. So should have what we're looking for here. For cutoff wheel, we're going to head and grab a couple of flat discs that we can use to clean everything up, and we'll be back on the road again. Probably not that big. All right, first thing we're going to do is get this bolt out of the bottom of the shock mount Go ahead and run it out, Caitlin. Other way. You're tightening it. Good, good, good. All right. One shock down. Take a look at that. That's quality. Original equipment. All right, so what we've got here, Caitlin, are our old shock and our new shock. Brand new Monroe shock here. We push down on this and it returns, right? Goes back to the original height. The old one, we push on, no return. This thing's literally doing nothing back there. This is why we're, replacing it. It's junk. It's junk, and Mama didn't raise no punk. Well, actually she did, but Caitlin calls him Uncle Tim.
My word.
Yeah, put all your weight into that. There you go. All right, now off.
It's a short little thing.
You hear it?
What's in there?
It's hydraulic dampener.
Like liquid?
Mm-hmm. Full of hydraulic fluid. Guys, I'm out here in the garage. Caitlin's already inside. I'm just doing some last minute cleanup, getting everything put away, and really excited to tell you about the sponsor of today's video. It's me. I'm the sponsor of all this, all these videos. It's me, Steve. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. So we're not gonna just cut it in the middle and try and pry it apart. We're just gonna go ahead and cut it twice on each bolt. Drop that off the bottom. So I've got the front ones done. Hold on. There's a brake line right back here. We're not gonna cut the brake line, okay? We're gonna cut below the brake line. So like right there. Yep, right there. Guys, we decided not to film this side because we showed you the other side, but I wish I had now because this hardware was really badly crusty, rusty. But I'm just going to tell you again, if you got a project you're going to be working on and you know stuff's rusty, start 3 or 4 days early spraying it down with some sort of penetrating oil, PV blaster, something, so that when you get out here to work on it, you don't have to fight this stuff. It just comes apart. Over here at Crossthread Garage and Salvage, we're working hard to do it almost right. At least 70% of the time. Success.
That was 90%.
No. Passing grade is 70. You know this. You're passing math with a 70.
No, I'm not. It's an A in math right now.
Oh, that was me. I passed math with a 70.
No, you.
K8lynn, this is our axle flip kit, and it did not come with any instructions So, just like everything else a man looks at without instructions, it just makes sense. You don't need instructions. This goes under the axle, this goes on top of the axle. These lower the mounting position for the shock, so you can use factory OEM size shocks. Those are the U-bolts that replace the ones we just cut off. Hardware, you know, it's really quite intuitive. So, next step is to get the springs out, get them torn down, cleaned up, put back together, get this stuff dry fitted, make sure everything's gonna fit, everything's long enough, make sure these are long enough, they're gonna reach around the springs, and we'll be good to go. Normally the battery operated impact wrench has enough pneumatic authority that we don't have to get anything bigger out, but she's spinning. Pitch that up against the bed so it holds it. She gone. I think we can back this out of here if we're careful. Yep. And that one, somebody put a little bit of anti-seize on, so if you're watching out there, you previously owned this piece of junk, thanks for that. It's much appreciated. Alright, let's grab the front one here. See if we can't do the same thing. So, K8lynn, sometimes it's just a matter of leverage. We've got a breaker bar on the backside here pinned against the frame, so it can't go anywhere. We've got another ratchet on this side with a bar extension. And we're gonna break this bolt just like this. Well, we're gonna break the nut free. Hopefully you don't break the bolt. Oh. I don't know who it was, but some Greek guy said that if you gave him a big enough lever, he could move the world. Leverage and rust don't go well together. Yeah, just broke my wrench. A little dowel pin came right out of it. Awesome. Bolt's still not out yet, by the way.
Now what?
Where'd my ball bearing go? Yeah, that's not ever going back together properly. Got it?
Yeah.
Got it?
Yes.
There it goes.
Oh my word, that's so heavy! Oh, wait, never mind.
Alright.
I didn't even hold it, it just dropped.
Alright. Good news is that bushing looks like it's in good shape. Alright.
This light is so bad.
Pull out of there with the camera.
Why did you turn this?
Alright. I'm going to go ahead and leave you with a time lapse here of K8lynn pulling this leaf pack apart. And she's going to take the nut off of the top of this bolt. Actually, we might end up having to cut that off, but we'll try it. Nope, it's definitely going to have to be cut off. The top that's been pounded on and flattened. So we're going to cut this nut off here and pull the bolt right out of the middle of this leaf pack. Take the 3 off the bottom that we can take off easily. We're going to clean everything else up with a wire brush. Get it dressed up, cleaned up, ready to go back in there looking nice. Alright, bolts off. wouldn't believe that if you told me that this morning, but I was cleaning up and I found 2 bolts in one of my drawers, and they are perfect. So this is the bolt that I had laying around here, and once I get a washer on both sides and I look through my lucky spare hardware bucket and find a nut that works for it, we'll be golden. All right, we got one spring cleaned up. While she was doing that, I went ahead and dropped the other one out of the driver's side. Okay.
Don't do this at home, folks.
Actually, do this at home. If it's gonna get done, somebody's gonna have to do it. There's no reason it shouldn't be you.
Do this at home,
Go ahead and-
folks.
Go ahead and stand up and get out of here so I can get out.
You just told me to be here.
Yeah. In case I needed you for something. Now I need you to get out of my way. We're gonna leave the 4 springs together in that spring pack, partly because I'm a little concerned that the lift that we're putting in the rear end of this is gonna run our axle into the frame. And I think leaving the 4 springs and stiffening it while still lowering it is probably the way to go here.
Anyways, update on the painting. We okay, not we. There's no we in me. No, there's not. There's not.
All that in there. And the way you know you're doing that right, K8lynn, is if you wake up tomorrow morning with rusty grit in your teeth. Yeah, you did it right. So this is gonna go right underneath here, and it fits right in between the factory leaf spring perch here and centers it. K8lynn, I've never done this before. Maybe obvious at this point. I've never flipped an axle before. Okay, hardware fits. This is cleaned up. I'm gonna switch to the other side. Springs are painted and drying. As soon as they're dry, we're gonna get back in here and throw this thing back together, and we'll see what kind of time frame we got left for the front suspension drop. Now, one of the things that you guys might be wondering about is what are we doing about wheels and tires? I'm just gonna go on a little rant here and tell you that I went twice this week to look at a set of wheels and tires for sale on Facebook Marketplace. And one time I drove 3 hours to pick them up. Guy called me 30 minutes before I got there, said he was on his way, and then never showed up. So I wasted my entire day off. And then I went the other night to look at a nice set, what looked like a nice set. As soon as I got there, the thing looked like it had been dropped on the curb from 15 feet in the air. Both rims round, bent, round, bent. Ridiculous. So I'm lacking wheels and tires, running out of time this week. So I had hoped to do the front and the back all together this week for you, but the debacle with the wheels and a couple of activities with school and friends that I didn't know about at the beginning of the week is going to keep us from getting that done this week. So this episode will be just the rear suspension drop for you and prep for next week. So let's get it done. I'm sorry, you were saying?
I want dinner.
Sun's still up. It's not even dinner time yet.
It's literally like a hair past a freckle. Like it's like 9 o'clock.
It's not 9 o'clock.
I don't know.
It's not the middle of the summer. Ooh, the moon's coming up over the trees.
Well, K8lynn's got the springs here cleaned up and painted and looking brand new from 50 feet away. So, you know, every once in a while I surprise myself, and there's a reason that you keep an entire toolbox full of small hardware, because in a pinch like this, you find not just the bolt you need, but the nut, the lock washer, the regular washer. It's all grade 8 hardware. Unbelievable. Yep. It's true. My brother didn't want to believe it, but I am that good. So we're going to throw these springs together real quick and then toss them back in the truck, I guess. I don't know. See what's next. You probably know better than I do. I'm just out here like a little baby bird trying to fly out of a nest, just winging it.
Winging it.
K8lynn,
What?
do you know what you get when you mix an angry sheep with an angry cow?
No.
Just a couple of animals that are in a bad mood.
Interrupt this episode with a dad joke. Mic drop. Ooh.
Horrible. Well, guys, we went to put the springs back in there and realized that the bolt that I struggled to get that nut off of had just stripped the threads completely out of there. So,
Strip that garage.
no, Crossthread garage. Well, maybe it was crossed when they put it on there, I don't know, but it's not going to do us any good tonight. So, new hardware tomorrow. This frame has been really bugging me since we bought it. I'm getting the spring perches and mounts, the shackles cleaned up, and I'm going to go ahead and paint basically between the shackles so that I don't have to get back in there later and paint that frame. I did go ahead and cut off the bump stops here so that those are out of the way. A little bit of pitting from where the rust was that you can still see there, but rebuilt that frame, rebuilt this brake drum. Next I'm going to rebuild the axle, the rest of the frame. But I'm just going to tell you, from 20 feet away, that's going to look a whole lot better than it did. Now we're cooking over the burn barrel. California residents, Prop 65 warning, that will cause cancer. Don't cook over the burn barrel. So I wanted to make sure I knew what we were doing here. So while K8lynn was gone this weekend, I went ahead and threw spring on this side. Flipped the axle so it's sitting above the spring with the new spring perch there. It's not tightened down because we haven't got the other side on. We don't have the shock on yet. Got a new shock mount extension that's going to go on the back of that axle. But this side went together no problem. So now we're going to show you this whole process with K8lynn on the other side. Oh, I'm going to cut the exhaust off because, well, it sounds better. But also because the way that exhaust was run, it was completely in the way of the axle. Anybody know where a guy could find a new extension cord? No, it's fine. It's probably fine. Well, here's the plan. And the lighting in here is pretty bad today. I gotta apologize for that. But K8lynn's so excited to get this done, I can barely contain her.
Look bald. Stop.
Well, you only look bald because you have a 5 head. Just like me!
It's actually like a 6. It's a 6 and a thumb head.
We've got new grade 8 hardware that I had to go everywhere looking for this. I went to the orange store, I went to the blue store.
If I'm not allowed to sing on camera, then you're not allowed to say words on camera. Like
I'm
store.
pretty sure a store name doesn't have the same copyright as you singing a song.
There's literally the R right next to the home.
It's trademarked, not copywritten. That's the difference.
Okay.
All right, let's argue about this later. And let me finish what I was saying about, what was I saying?
Home Depot and
Oh,
Now's.
grade 8 bolts. So finally found some at the blue store. Cost me $32. I used to buying hardware by the pound in a brown paper sack at the local hardware store. 30? Oh, good grief. Anyways, I don't want to talk about it. I just want to get this done
He doesn't
and
talk about
get
it.
this video out. Red eye?
Red eye.
Now, these bushings are just wide enough that it's not going to go in there easily. So we're going to have to line it up and just tap it in with that
Tappy thingy?
2-pound hammer we brought over here.
No.
So, no, with a hammer. Get in here and you can pick this up. What do you think the chances of you getting that spring in there are? Okay, well, you go first.
What?
If you can't get it, I'll get in there. There you go.
Okay, oh, come on. I got my foot on this end, so it's not gonna come back out. Just tap it right on the face of that.
Going the wrong way.
Okay, let's go right there. Put that pin through there and make sure that it's centered. Pry on it to center a little bit. There you go. Yep, it's through. So it's going to go through with the washer on like that. So pull that pin out. So put the bolt in there. Yep, and then now move it until it falls in. Can you see it where it's lining up? There it goes. When it gets through the other side, you're going to have to do the same thing.
I gotta do that hole.
Tap it with that hammer just to get it the rest of the way through. Easy, easy. There you go.
All right, Caitlin, let's pick this up now. Is that an ice cream truck? Open the garage door.
You stopped. What is that?
Sure sounds like an ice cream truck to me. It is an ice cream truck. You don't even know what an ice cream truck is. Come here. It's a van that sells ice cream. You just missed it.
That seems not safe.
This was my childhood.
A white van.
My childhood in the 1980s and early 90s.
Druggie selling stuff out of a white van.
Yeah,
Ice cream?
that's where the stereotype comes from. Oh, one other thing. Driving home from work yesterday, swing past my favorite Mennonite thrift store, and what do I see hanging out behind the dumpster?
A new set of tires. Look at these guys. Wheels, tires. These things are date coded for 2019. Those are probably the newest tires on the property. I snagged these up the other day. New wheels for the rat rod, and put my center caps back on. Just put some nice black painted steelies on there. These tires were on there. Still got good rubber, but man, that is hard. That's old enough I can't find a date code on it. Those might be 20-year-old tires that have never been used. I don't know. They came off of a 1996 Chevy truck. So anyhow, we're going to get some new center caps here that say GMC instead of Chevrolet. And those will be the new tires and wheels that are going to go on this bad boy. So we had a little learning curve here, we realized we need to put that shock extension on first before we put the plate on with those U-bolts. Let me get a picture of the other side here. There's better light coming through. So we've got 2 bolts there, 1 bolt through the back. We just need to tighten that up. Are you blocking the camera from being able to see what you're doing?
No.
Guess we'll see when we get to editing, huh? So we've measured between the spring and the dust plate here on the back of the drum. On both sides it's exactly 6 inches, which means our axle is centered left to right. And we've measured from the back of the axle face to the center of the bolt that's running through the rear shackle, and it's exactly 24.5 inches on both sides. So our axle is square, our pinion angle is correct, and now we're ready finally to run the plates and bolt underneath this spring and get this axle secured. Alright, we're going to go ahead and throw a new set of shocks on this. They're just stiff enough that I don't think K8lynn can get this done, so I'm going to go ahead and throw it on here. We went ahead and cleaned the frame up like we did the other side, so we wouldn't have to get back in here with the shock in the way and all this stuff. The only thing we're going to have to do is clean up the actual axle with a wire wheel, paint that before we're done. Same thing with the rest of the frame back here. But you know, as I often say, that's a problem for future Steve.
Right.
So, K8lynn, this slips on up top. Got a rubber bushing. And throw the nut on. Okay. And then you got to compress this. This is where I don't think you got enough strength to run this shock in. So low.
Dad. What happened to our truck?
That is awesome.
It's so short. You literally put my chin on it. What?
That is amazing. Holy cow. You guys see what I'm seeing?
We take 3 springs. Dude. Let's get the rest.
That is sweet. Well, the small dilemma we have here is that we've accidentally created a little Carolina squat truck here with the front. So, clearance on the back wheels.
If we hit a big rock, we're done for.
Clearance on the front wheels. That's amazing. All right, let's get it out here and get a look at it.
Cool.
I think it's fair to say that's what we're looking for. This is going to be a work in progress. And next week, we're going to cut the springs on the front end, replace all the ball joints, tie rod, inner and outers, and pull the drag link, clean it up. We're going to replace the pitman arm, the idler arm, it's all going to be done. So let's get a measuring tape on it and see what we lost here, K8lynn.
I just did.
No.
You lost this much.
Okay, K8lynn, drop a line right here in front of the center of the axle. Wheel well opening is now basically 27 inches. It was, this is insane. It was 34 inches with the other tires on it. So I never measured it with these tires on it.
Right here.
So I'm not sure exactly how much of a drop we got because I'm not putting those other tires back on. But our body line now, where was it? 34?
Yeah, on this thing.
Okay, put it back up there. Our body line now is like 34.25. Let's go to the front because we're going to level it off the body line, not off the wheel well, because the wheel well openings are different on these trucks. But the wheel well opening is at 33. So if we want this, pull it up, K8lynn. Okay, so our body line on the front is at 38.25 inches. And if we want it at 34.25 inches, which is what the back is, we're going to have to drop the front 4 inches. Normally, to level a C10, you'd end up with like a 5-inch back, 3-inch front. I think we've done something in the neighborhood of a 6-inch rear, and a front is going to have to end up being 4 inches to get it leveled. So we get the old Carolina squat out of this square body. Good news is that the truck doesn't seem to be hitting the frame. Whew. That is stiff. But it's not bouncing on the frame. Let's get the front wheels on here and see what this looks like with the frills. Oh, we need to measure this with the actual wheels on it that we're using, so we know. Well, it should still be the same. Should still be a 4-inch drop either way, but we'll throw the front wheels on here and see what this looks like. Well guys, that's going to do it for this week. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, leave us a comment, tell us what you think of the old Carolina squat here that we've accidentally created. Next week we're going to drop the front suspension, and it looks like after we jumped on the back end and settled the rear suspension a little bit, looks like we've got about a 5-inch drop we need to put on the front. And so you're going to see that along with the suspension components being changed out, steering components updated next week. Now, some of you might be thinking, man, how long is this C10 build going to take? Truthfully, I could make a punch list, but it'd be longer than a night in the county jail. So I just don't want to do that. But I think for real, we've probably got 3 or 4 more episodes. We've got some rust repair we need to do, the suspension work, the paint work, and then the finish, electrical, trim, and all that stuff. So we've got a lot planned for this. New bumpers, new mirrors, everything's here. Everything's sitting in the garage, just waiting for us. And I really appreciate your patience with us over the last couple weeks. It's been a long month for us here with our family, with vacation, with time with family, with activities with school and friends. And as I said earlier, you know, we're having fun with the YouTube channel, but we've still got lives we have to live here. So thanks again for watching. Make sure to subscribe. Tell your friends about Crossthread Garage and Salvage. And oh, by the way, don't tell anybody, but next week we're going to have a merch store open. You're going to want to tune in next week to get the address. Anybody. I mean, just between you and me and the internet.
Yeah.
Wait. Hey, do you know the history of nachos?